Alright everybody, welcome back to a brand new video. Today we're here reacting and having a discussion about a video from Richie Gonzo. And the titled Springtrap is Brainless, Dead by Daylight. Original video will be linked in the description if you want to watch it on your own. But we're here going to have just a discussion. I want to hear what this take is, because I don't think I've really kept up too heavily with the general consensus with Springtrap, so I'm curious to see what this is.
Are all doing well. Today I was originally going to upload a video on my build for Springtrap, my preferred build for him since he's been in the game for a couple of days now, and I thought I could share that. But I'm shifting my focus to something else because, in classic fashion, with the release of a brand new killer, DBD Twitter is having yet another meltdown. But hold on my friends, let us not jump to conclusions. Let's see if we can try to guess what they might be having a meltdown over.
Okay, I'm gonna try to take a guess because he said let's take a guess, so I'm gonna try. Okay, so my guess is that maybe it's because of the hatchet or something. They're probably like, oh, the hatchet has too much like range, or the hitbox is too wide, or something else, right? I bet it's probably like, oh, the teleports are too easy to use and fast, or oh, the command grab is broken. You know, we're just, taking a wild guess. They tend to cry about everything, so I'm not surprised.
Are they having a meltdown over A, twins being bugged so badly that they are unplayable for the 15th billionth time? I feel like this happens every patch. B, the fact that Springtrap has released with 2 game-breaking bugs, one of them making him invisible upon exiting a security door, and the second one flipping your audio upon using the security cameras. C, the fact that Behavior's Go Next prevention system has been a complete and total failure, with players getting penalized for dying too early within the matches. This literally needed to be kill-switched. Or D, complaining that Springtrap is broken, brain dead, and calling for him to get nerfed.
They're probably going to be bitching about Springtrap getting nerfed, because they do this with every single killer that ever releases.
2 days after his release. If you guessed D, congratulations, my dear viewer, you are correct, and for that,
yay, I'm right. Woo! Yeah!
You win the prize of being blocked by these people on Twitter.
Yay! I get to get blocked on Twitter. Let's go! That means I won.
Okay, on a more serious note though, people are complaining about the first 3 things. I mean, those Springtrap bugs in particular are just insane to me because they weren't even on the PTB. Like, how do you manage to have a decent PTB and a worse release? Like, Jesus Christ. But I have seen...
Yeah, that's just kind of how it goes when you program things and you patch things. Things break when you fix things, and then you fix something else, and then it breaks something else, and then you fix something else, and then it breaks something else. That's kind of the general way that it goes. Now, I'm not a programmer, so I obviously can't speak for Behavior. I'm not a game developer, but what I've heard from people who have spoken about it, 9 times out of 10 they always say that it's usually when you fix something, something else will break.
Way more people complain about Springtrap than I have the first 3 issues that I mentioned. And I know, I get it, there's supposed to be this cycle of every time a new killer comes out, everyone bitches and moans and complains, and they want them to get nerfed, but like, come the fuck on, guys, it's getting a little bit old.
Yeah, honestly, yeah, I mean, we've seen a ton of brain rot, like, from both the Survivor mains and the killer mains, respectively. Obviously, I've seen a lot more Survivor mains screech and cry and complain. I think a bit more than I've seen killers, at least specifically. Let's continue.
Don't get me wrong, there are some killers that I do think were released in completely broken states and that need toning down, like Kenneck, for example, but Springtrap has been one of the...
I disagreed, by the way. I've talked about Kenneck a little bit when he dropped. I didn't think he was that crazy. He seemed fine to me, but, Behavior does what they do, and I still thought that Kenneck was still fine. I think even after the nerfs, I thought he was still okay.
Best releases this game has ever seen from a balance perspective. The bugs playing as Survivor aside, that part is really bad. Playing as Springtrap is great, and once those bugs get fixed, if anything, I think he's going to need buffs. I see pretty much 2 big complaints being thrown around on Twitter. One of them is complaining about Backreving, and the second one is complaining about zoning. So let's go over these terms and what they might mean, right? For anyone not familiar with Backreving, it essentially means walking up to a Survivor and just using your M2. Hillbilly popularized this, and now Bubba does it, Huntress can do it, and of course, since Huntress can do it, Springtrap can do it, right? Now, the thing that...
Well, I don't think it's called a Backrev if it's not a chainsaw, by the way. Just for you guys that are unfamiliar, like a Backrev is mainly Billy and Leatherface. Obviously, you can't really Backrev with Pyramid Head or Backrev with characters with a hatchet because there's no rev. Like this, it's just called zoning.
Confuses me is that people are complaining about this with Springtrap now when this has been a thing since the game came out in 2016. I was playing back then. Hillbilly came out with the game, and backrevving was very much a thing upon release. It wasn't called backrevving, there wasn't a term for it, but Hillbilly would definitely walk up to people and chainsaw the survivor for an insta-down. I mean, it's not rocket science. It doesn't take a genius to think about doing that. I don't think it was an issue when Billy first came out. I don't think it's an issue now. And if you're the one person who has been playing since 2016 and had an issue with it back then and still has an issue with it now, I really don't know what to tell you, because you're essentially complaining about a killer using their power. That's like being mad at a nemesis using his tentacle on you to build infection instead of just M1ing you. That's like being mad at Wesker using his grab on you to throw you into a worse spot away from loops instead of just M1ing you and let you walk wherever you want.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. You know, you see a lot of survivors that will bitch and complain about everything a killer does, while simultaneously they do shit that ultimately people don't find fun and don't want to go up against and stuff like that. I can list it. I mean, they got people going down in the corners of the map, you got people body blocking, gen rushing, I mean, you know, healing in general. You can even go that far, healing under hooks and stuff like that with Resurgence or Will Make It, bringing second chance perks, you know, things like that, right? And I'm only using these as an example. Like, these are things that people can point at and say, I don't like this thing. And they can use that same logic that these survivors are using. Like, oh, this isn't fair. It's like, but survivors do stuff that's not fair either. Like, it goes both ways. It's a part of the game. You know, it's more so an issue with the game in itself. It's not necessarily the players at that point. You know what I mean? Because as I've said too, like, people, like, there's things that survivors do that people will say, oh, it's just a part of the game. It's just a strategy. So, like, why is it that it's any different for killers? I've always wondered that. I never understood that, because it goes both ways. You know what I mean? It's literally how it works. It's people trying to compete against one another to win a match. It's a part of the process.
You see where I'm getting at here? You are getting mad at a killer for using their power. And if that's seriously what you have the issue with, then I'm sorry, but your complaint is not real. The second thing that I want to talk about is zoning. More so, using your M2 and then canceling your M2. This is also not a novel concept. It's been in the game for a long time. Multiple killers can do this. A lot of killers can do this. Probably the most notorious example is Demogorgan, if you ask me. Essentially, you hold out your M2 and then this...
Yeah, you know what's crazy is that people love Demogorgon, so... well, they did back in the day, so, like, what's the difference now? You know what I mean? Like, Huntress does it, Pyramid Head does it, Demogorgon's done it before, stuff like that. So I don't even know how that is even a point, you know what I mean, to... it's, like I said, it's in the game. Anybody can do it with these characters, and it's just a part of it. Like, that's how it works.
Survivor starts trying to strafe it or dodge it, you might dissuade them from vaulting a pallet or dropping a pallet or vaulting a window because you might get a free hit off, in the case of Springtrap at least since you have a projectile. But then you cancel your M2 afterwards, just walk forward and get a free hit because the strafing that the survivor did caused them to lose distance. That's pretty much what zoning is in this example. They're just getting mad at people canceling their M2, and again, Demo is a very, very big offender of this. But the crazy part is that Demogorgon is one of the most well-liked killers across all communities.
That's what I said.
It's one of the most balanced killers they've ever added. Everyone relatively likes the Demogorgon. And again, before the one person who actually has disliked Demo since release because of this starts typing in my comments section, that is purely a you problem. Your complaints are not real. It is a 50-50, get over it. So yeah, I don't really get people who are complaining about this either, because multiple other killers can do it. Why is it suddenly a problem now? It's been in the game forever. I guess it could be because Springtrap has a very high skill ceiling, so people are mad that most people aren't going for these crazy trick shots, but like, is anything going on up there? Are you guys using your brain? Guys, the killer has been out for 2 days. Of course, people are not going to go for these risky-ass plays. They need to learn the guy first. Even after you do dump a good amount of hours into Springtrap, it's probably safer to go for an M2 mind game or just a simple axe hit than it is to try to snipe someone.
Yeah, that's the thing that I agree with. I think that people, in general, will go for the path of least resistance. And, you know, survivors will obviously run perks that give them free speed boosts and run windows of opportunity because, you know, so for example, like sprint bursts and stuff like that, also windows of opportunity. Because that's the path of least resistance. Why take the time out to try to learn tiles, loops, and pallets when you can just have it highlighted for free at all times? And why even attempt to have map awareness when you can speed boost away with sprint burst and stuff like that, right? it goes both ways, you know what I mean? And it's interesting that they point the fingers at the killer players for just going the path of least resistance, when that is something that as a whole people just do in general when they play the game, and they just play any other game. It's the same thing. Why make it harder for yourself when the easiest thing to do is just to do that, and it's efficient and it works? It doesn't require you to make a massive blunder because you missed, when you can easily just do that.
Went over a wall, especially if you don't have any aura reading on them. Again, you are essentially getting mad at a killer for using their power in an attempt to win the game. Are we serious? People are under no obligation to play nice. Come on now. That isn't even the best part though, because if we look at the type of people who are complaining about these two things on Twitter, we get to see some pattern recognition here, boys. Alright, stick with me for this one. The type of people who are complaining about this usually fall into one of two categories. The first category is that they just don't play killer at all. They're one-trick survivor players, and this doesn't surprise me because this happens with every new killer. People who have never touched killer in their lives are complaining about part of their kits without even bothering to learn the counterplay for them.
Yeah, I've seen that a lot. I see that a lot. And then, you know, because of that, they think that killer is just somehow so powerful and so easy when it's not. You know, and then when they do play killer, they only play, what, 2 matches and go, oh, wow, this was really easy. I don't understand. It's like, no, that's not how that works, you know? Like, MMR is a thing. Like, you know, when you first start out brand spanking new, you're gonna be starting out at the lowest MMR possible, which means the players you're going up against are also brand spanking new as well. Therefore, they're not going to be able to compete at a level that's competitive in any way. And probably vice versa, right? You know.
So, whatever, that doesn't surprise me. The second type of person that's complaining about Springtrap right now are killer players that will defend dash killers until their last breath. Once you realize this, the truth becomes obvious. They aren't bashing on Springtrap because he's actually broken or brain dead. They're bashing on him because he's a ranged projectile killer. These guys are totally cool with the past 50 releases being complete and total dash slop, but the second one killer that doesn't fall into that category gets added, nah, like this guy's brain dead, he's broken, he's boring. Actually insane to me. I'm sorry, you cannot be saying this while the killers you play consist of Kenneck and Blight. Yeah, because those guys are the epitome of player skill expression. Like, okay man, God forbid we go one release without a dash killer. The horrors, we got a ranged projectile killer that can zone people. The world is ending. Now, if it isn't obvious enough, I do not like dash killers. What they're saying about...
That is actually pretty hilarious. Now, me personally, I don't really play many dash killers at all. But, as you guys know, I main, you know, who I've listed before, Freddy, Ghostface, Pyramid Head. I'm trying to get to P100 Myers, stuff like that. And I do think I want to get into more dash killers. I think they'd probably fit my playstyle a lot more. But I personally don't have any issue with it. I think that it's just a part of having variations of different killers and different licenses and among, you know, different playstyles and stuff like that.
If it is statistically balanced and there are more people who like it than there are people who dislike it, it's fine. You're never going to please everyone. So do I agree with most of these things being said on Twitter? Hell to the fuck no, I don't. Springtrap has some pretty bad bugs going on with him on the Survivor side. That cannot be ignored, and I'm shocked that shit even made it to live servers. But once those bugs are fixed, I genuinely think Springtrap sits around somewhere maybe mid to high B tier at best. He's one of the few killers that on release, I think at least his base kit feels perfect. It does not need any changes. Maybe this is just a case of the community cannot fathom the fact that a killer released in a decent state in terms of objective game balance. I don't mean in terms of bugs. That's a whole different story, but in terms of balance, Springtrap is very near the perfect.
Yeah, I agree. I think Springtrap is in a perfect place, especially on release. I think it's a good balance where they're not too strong, not too weak. I think they're right down the middle where they do have options for the majority. You have a teleport, you also have a ranged option, you also have just the basic M1 aspects as well. You do also have nice add-ons that can also help, you know, kind of shift the gameplay a little bit as well to kind of lean into different builds. Overall, I had to say that they really knocked it out the park, in my opinion.
Mark. Whatever. All we can hope is that behavior doesn't bend the knee to these people because Springtrap does not need any nerfs. Some of the add-on and perk nerfs I already thought were unnecessary, but now people are clamoring for nerfs to his base kit. Like, come on, man. To end this video on a more positive...
To be fair, Springtrap had gotten nerfed out the PTB. They reduced his haste add-ons. They reduced both of them, I believe. So technically speaking, he already got nerfed off of just release. So like, I don't know what else they would want, you know. But I guess, you know, I guess maybe a lot of Survivor players just want to play Generator Simulator and not actually play the game, which is, at least to me, you know, I think that the chase would be more interesting in my opinion. I think that's way more interesting than sitting around holding down your key, sitting there waiting, and then a little noise, boom, and then you have to like hit the button and then wait again. Like, I don't know how that would be interesting. I really don't. You know, you're interacting with the killer and you're literally using your knowledge and skill to compete. You know, to me that sounded way better in my opinion, but I could be wrong, right? But either way, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Also, if you want to watch the rest of the video, it'll be linked in the description. And let me know what you guys think. Subscribe to the channel, you know what I'm saying, so you could watch out for more content like this. I was thinking about some tier list videos, could be pretty fun. And with that being said, man, thank you guys for being here. If you want to support the channel, links in the description. Consider becoming a member for exclusive content. And I will see you guys in the next video.